Sure do.
There we go.
Meeting is called to order, is 9:30, yes. Okay, so the first thing on the agenda is approval of minutes from our last meeting on April 9th. How do we do that? Say everybody
Ask for
motion?
a motion. Yeah, ask for a
Yeah.
motion, ask for a second.
Okay, so can I get a motion for the approval of the minutes for April 9th?
All right, I approve. I motion.
Karen motions. Can we get a
Fremont.
second?
I'll second the motion.
Okay, thanks, Erin.
You're welcome.
Okay, so then we go on to additions to the agenda. There is one item that was added, and that was by Michelle at Des Plaines. She would like to chit chat a little bit about claims returned. So Michelle, do you want to go ahead and we can go ahead and do that. Do we do it now or do we wait till at the end?
We can add that to new business.
Right.
Oh, I see. Okay, so we'll put it at the end. So Michelle, don't go yet.
And then I also have a request.
Oh.
Deborah needs to leave the meeting earlier than anticipated. So if we could move.
Yeah, we're gonna do that with the CCS reports.
Yeah, the upcoming optional patron data field to the CCS reports.
Yep.
Perfect. Oh, and thank you, Kim and Carrie and Alicia. If everyone could add their name and library initials to the chat, we will use that as roll.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
It's very helpful.
Oh, yeah.
We know where everybody, what library you're from.
Thanks.
All right, so officer reports, there are none. So we'll move to the CCS staff reports. And so Mieko, I think it's you.
Okay, so I have a couple things I want to mention. The first one on the list is valid multiple patron accounts. So I don't know if you remember a couple weeks ago, I don't know time. The CERC listserv had a question about users who own property in 2 different CCS library service districts. And the question is basically like, can they have 2 valid library cards or do they need to pick a home library? So I verified with Rails that per the Illinois State Library, there's no prohibition in the statute that would deny an individual paying taxes to 2 different libraries from receiving a card from each. So right now we don't have anything like explicitly stated or mentioned in our circulation manual. And so I just want to give the group a heads up, just so we can have something on hand to reference in the future. I'm going to be adding a mention of this, the circulation manual. So ahead of the next Circ Tech meeting, I will send the manual draft out to the group so you can review the addition. And then at the October meeting, we can vote as a group to approve. So heads up that that will be coming. Yeah, Michelle.
So you said if they're paying taxes at both locations, what about staff who may live at one of the library districts and who works at a library district? So, because there's several cases, including me, who has 2 library cards.
Yeah,
Is that okay?
I think the thing is if you get it at a library that you work at but don't live there, you only use that card at that library as the guideline for that.
Oh,
right.
Yeah,
I'm
I
trying to
think that's
remember
how
if
that
we
goes.
have
Mhm.
something in the CERC manual right now. If it is unclear or not explicit, I will also kind of expand on that section too. So let me just make a note to myself.
Yeah, I seem to remember it the same way because we like them to have and most of the libraries so that they can access services. So it's easier for them to explain them to other people and use them. But because some of our staff have 2 cards in the system, they have their home card and they have a card here, but they usually use the card here just so they can do things that we want them to be able to use any of the systems if they have to.
Yeah, that
Kim, did you have a comment?
I do have one thing. So we have people who own dual properties in two library districts, but they rent. So would that be, because what we do is we do one card for the homeowner, not the whole family, and then the rentals can have the card for each member of the family because they're renting in district at that time. So I think depending upon how they're living in that house, like it came up, we have someone who's sailing on a boat this whole entire next 2 years for their kids because they're in the Cub Scouts, but they rent their home. So we gave them one card for them while they're in Florida on their boat, and then the rental is here. You know, like I just wonder, because a dual property, you're adding more cards. So you could have a family of 8 who are, you know, just for resource purposes and digital resources. I just want to, if there's clear language,
Yeah.
it's like, does that make sense?
Yeah, I might have to reach back out to Rails to clarify on that. So let me add that to my notes too. Okay, any other questions? So, and let me just make sure I understand this. It would be like a person who owns a home in one district, but rents a house, like they rent a house in another district.
Well, they own the property they're renting the house on. So they own
Yes.
their property
Oh.
owner in one area, and that's a
Yeah.
house that sits on the property and they rent it.
Yeah, we have a guy who does that. He has a house near the hospital and he rents it to visiting doctors. He doesn't live in that property.
Okay.
The owner doesn't live there. So I can see what Kim's saying is you give a card like to the one owner, not everybody in his family.
Oh,
That as
I see.
property owner, he has a right to a library card. And then you give the card individually to the person who's renting at the time.
Okay. Let
I
me,
think-
But I mean, they're using the home as a business. They're not actually living there. So they own a house in Evanston and they're renting a house here out.
Well,
So do
yeah,
they
and
have, they have a right because they're paying the property taxes? They have a right. to
right.
get
But
card.
do you usually ask them then, is this the house that you're living in? Or, I mean,
Well,
how
that's
do
why
you?
they can't show me ID that has their address. Because they're not living at that address. The address card he has is where he actually lives. His driver's license. And so then they show us tax property and you can see that they're renting it. But he was also concerned about making sure that if he rents it to a doctor who has children, can they all get library cards here? So he was being upfront about it because he wanted to be sure they could get library cards. He didn't want to be held responsible for their stuff. But he wanted to be able to have a card of his own for our databases and things that we had that he wanted to use. So he has a right, he's paying the property. And he lives somewhere else. So it varies how you find out about it. But yeah, you
I
might
think
not.
the basic guideline by state law, though, is if you own property in any place, you get a card from that place because you pay taxes to it doesn't matter if they rent or own it. It's not even my business. It's not it's none of my business that if that's what they're doing, I don't care. But if they show up and say they're a property owner and can prove so, you have a card, you get one. But if you actually, and you live elsewhere, I mean, it doesn't matter. You can get 2 cards. You get a card for every community or district, as we word it, that you live in, that you either own the home or own the property. You get a card because you support the library. And that's just clear. The law says it clearly just like that, so.
It was, yeah, he was more concerned about the people who were in the building. Could they?
They
get
can come
one?
get it because they'll show up and their license is gonna have, that's where they
And
live.
that's
And we
what I
would know
told
no
him. I said-
different and you just give them a card. That's
I
it.
said, it's only an issue if their driver's license doesn't match and they
Right.
can't show, but then if they can show that they've got a rental agreement and they're living there, then we'll give them a card. It's all just showing you can get it. But yeah, there are different subtleties, I imagine, so.
yeah. So let me check in with Rails. My guess is that there's not like language that will like explicitly address, all of the little situations. So we'll see what we can, what information I can get, and send the draft out.
Sounds like a
You-
plan.
Cool. Any other questions on that? Nope. Okay. Okay, so I will get back to everyone on that. And I will also make sure that there is a little more explicit language about responsibilities of like staff cards versus home library cards. Okay, the next thing I wanted to give a quick update on is the new CCS website. So we've been working on, Kathleen's been wonderful, and she's been working on a updated website. Tentatively will go up in late summer or early fall. And so the new website is going to combine the learning portal where we, have all of our documentation, and the current CCS website where, which contains most of the meeting information and like contact information and governance documents. It's going to combine all that into one site. So what you're used to with the current 2 sites are shared logins. So you have one shared login for the learning portal and another shared login for the website. And with the new site, instead of a shared login, staff are going to now use their L2 accounts. So that's the username and password that used with like the Rails website and the library learning website. And the reason for this is because the new website will have some integration with L2 and use its API. So everyone, just make sure your L2 logins are valid, and update your Teams logins if you need to. If you need assistance with your L2 login, I'm just going to pop a URL in the chat. So this is the this will take you to the L2 help site where you can get help like updating your password or getting a new account. And we'll share the information too in all the upcoming communications. So I'm really looking forward to a new streamlined website. It's so far the mock-ups we've seen look great. The next update I have is just some some patron data related reminders. So first of all, I just wanted to remind everyone to check on your PowerPack registrations. So for libraries who offer online registration through the PowerPack, don't forget to clear out old registration of users who never came in to get their card or verified their IDs. You do have access. There's a couple of reports available to help you manage these online patron records. There's one available in web reports, and there's also a report available in the staff client reports. If you need help with either report, just shoot an email to help@ccslib.org, and we'll walk you through using the reports. And then
I have a question about
sure.
that, Miyako. I thought I read it somewhere that those PackReg cards, that they could be automatically deleted after a certain amount of time, but is that not the case? I guess I was under the impression they were after a certain amount of time, but no.
I don't think there's any automations available that would.
I thought it said after a certain amount of 30 days or something like that. I mean, we do go in and always work those accounts or whatever, but I was under that impression, but I'm clearly off the
No.
mark, but okay.
No, you're not, Karen. Karen, I was under the same impression. So
Oh, you were?
that's
Yeah,
it.
I thought I read it somewhere. So, okay,
It was
carry on.
Yeah, so if you have any questions about that, email help@ccslib.org. We'll work with you on that. And the other thing I want to mention was just on patron blocks and notes. So just a reminder with notes and free text blocks in the patron's record, don't forget to remove the note once it's resolved. And also, please don't forget to include, when adding a note, I should say, don't forget to include the date, your library's 3-letter initials, and your own initials. So if anyone does need to follow up with a staff member on a note, they know who to contact. And then I just want to slip one last reminder in there before I turn it over to Deborah. Just an update on hold notices. So I don't know if anyone here is part of the user experience advisory group, but they've been working really hard on evaluating email notices since like what, fall, winter last year, I think. Including like gathering feedback from patrons. And so the updates to email notices will be implemented on August 9th. It's not going to be anything dramatic. It's just some, tweaking of language here and there, making them a little more mobile friendly. So we'll be sharing all information about this, as well as some links to sample notices in upcoming CCS e-news. So I think just pull up my calendar here. I believe, yeah, in a couple weeks, July 23rd, July 30th. So watch for those. And additionally, now at this time, now that Illinois is in stage 5 of the Restore Illinois, any COVID era customizations will revert back to pre-COVID standards for hold notices. So again, beginning on August 9th, if you did have any custom hold notices in place, those will be going back to our system-wide standards on August 9th. And again, we'll share reminders in CCS e-news. So watch for those upcoming alerts. So any questions on notices or like the blocks and notes? In that case, I will pass it over to Deborah then.
Awesome. All right, so I wanted to give a quick update on the new patron race ethnicity field that we will be adding to Polaris. So just some background information. Earlier this year, CCS received a request from the Evanston Public Library to add an additional demographic field for race and ethnicity to Polaris. They are interested in tracking this data for their patrons to ensure that they're equitably serving their entire community. So this request was brought to database management in May, where we had a really deep and thoughtful discussion about the implications of adding this field. Ultimately, the group did decide to approve the addition of this field in Polaris, and we, with some direction for CCS to work with a DEI consultant to make sure that the values included in the field and the configuration was appropriate and inclusive and configured as best as possible for our libraries. So we had initially planned implementation for this field on July 1, but we really wanted to, again, assure that we're adding this in the most thoughtful way possible. So we've been working with our DEI consultant, and we kind of pushed that implementation date back a little bit farther to roughly mid-August. So what does the addition of this field mean for all of you? This field is optional. No library will be required to use it. So currently, only Evanston is planning to actually use this field for patron registrations. We will be able to disable all the values for all other CCS libraries. Again, so while you'll see the label in your patron registration screen for your patrons, your staff will not be able to choose a value except one that will likely just say does not apply or something like that. We have to kind of wordsmith it, but we can disable all of the other options so that staff members cannot choose a value. Of course, any library would be allowed to use this field in the future if it would assist with your own DEI initiatives at your library. So database management and executive committee did also request that CCS and our DEI consultant provide some additional training for directors to address some of the concerns that were brought up with adding this new field. So at next week's governing board, our DEI consultant, Biz, who works with Rails, will be giving a 45-minute presentation to our directors to talk about the importance of gathering this data and how to address potentially some complications or concerns of staff.
Where would it be located in the profile, in the whole
Yeah,
profile?
so that's a good question. So it will be located again on that patron registration screen. What we'll be doing in order to implement this field as a dropdown, we'll be moving the driver's license field from where it is to a patron custom data field essentially just means like the location of it's going to move a little bit farther down. And where you currently see driver's license is where you'll see the race ethnicity drop down.
Okay, in the
So we're
act,
not deleting driver's license information. We're just moving it from
just
its
moving it.
field to a different one. And then we're repurposing the original driver's license field for the race ethnicity.
Okay. Thank you.
Deborah, is this available on a pack reg? Will that be a drop down as well, or?
Let me look at that. That's a good question. I am not sure, so I will.
I didn't know what that question meant. I didn't
in
understand it.
When a patron, Evanston allows patrons to self-register in PowerPack. So
Uh-huh.
Kim's asking, is this a field that they will be?
Oh, I see. Okay,
So I
Kim,
don't
you're
know
so
the answer.
smart.
So we'll follow up and then chat with Evanston about that.
okay, I got you.
And we use the driver's license field. Where is that moving to?
It's moving to what Polaris calls a patron custom data field. For all intents and purposes, it looks exactly the same as all the user-defined fields. Its location will move slightly down though, but I believe, Mieko, it will stay in the same patron attributes section of
Oh,
patron
okay, so it's
registration.
still in the attributes. Okay,
Same box, just different spot.
It'll be
okay,
like
great.
lower down in that box instead of, I
Excellent.
think it's right now like in the top row.
It is, yep.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
So your staff should still be able to find it. It's just
Yeah.
your eyes will look in a slightly different place.
Okay,
And so the driver's
Well-
license will still remain searchable if you need to look someone up by their driver's license. So that it won't really change the functionality of the driver's license
So,
field. at all.
and you know, I can just see people, since they're so used to scanning the driver's license into that field. It won't let them then scan the driver's license into that ethnicity field.
No, it will be a drop-down field.
Okay.
So it will be configured differently than the driver's license field is just a free text field.
Right,
So the race ethnicity field will be a drop-down.
down, okay,
Yes, so this again, the ability to select one of the values will be limited to Evanston cardholders. You will see the field, but your staff will not be able to choose one of the values. There will be like a placeholder value in case a staff member picks something on accident, and we have to have some kind of value in the field. But again, only Evanston patrons will actually have the values displayed. And Evanston will not collect this data for any other patrons besides their own.
And if we wanted to do it, we would just let you know that we would like it available as well. Any library, I mean, that wants to do it.
Yes, that is
I see.
correct. So if any library, obviously that would be a decision that would need to be discussed thoughtfully with your team, but yes, it will be available for any other library to use. And Evanston, I think, will be a great resource for us all to ask how their experiences are in their first, year of collecting this data. Any other questions? Okay, well, if any questions do come up, please feel free to reach out to me. And again, your directors will be getting some training on this next week at Governing Board. So they'll be good people to ask questions to as well. All right, turn it back over to you guys.
All right, thanks, Deborah. All right, I think our next thing, Mieko, you were done with all your things you wanted to say? Okay. So old business, da-na-na-na, nomination for a
Do you
vice
think that might
chair.
be why we're a little thin on attendance?
Those that didn't attend are up for nomination. So is anybody remotely interested? Don't all jump at once and unmute yourselves.
And while you're all thinking, I
Yeah,
can
there you
just
go.
give a quick. So for this position, basically this year you will serve as vice chair / chair-elect. So your job will be really simple. It's just filling in if Karen is unavailable to act as chair during a meeting. Just kind of review minutes before they're sent out to the group, right? And then in the following fiscal year from 2022 to 2023, you will serve as chair. So you'll have kind of like a year to get yourself acclimated, and then you can jump in as chair while, you know, you've seen all the things. So
I'll give it a shot.
okay. Thank you, Karen. I think, Karen, I think we will need just a motion and a second to approve, Carrie.
All right, so who passes, how do you say it? Who motions?
I make a motion for Carrie to be the vice chair of the CCS Zerk ILL group.
Thank you,
I
Kim.
second it. I second it. Anne from Prospect Heights.
Ann, okay.
All in favor? Yes.
Aye,
Hi.
aye,
It'll
yes.
be good. It's not too bad. I've done all these jobs. It's not too bad. First year's a breeze.
All right, so we're going on to new business then. First thing up is Kim. You wanted to talk about your library and I think the closings that you have are the,
Yes, so our library is going to be closed from August 15th until August 31st to staff completely. We will have no power. The main feed for electricity is being replaced. We will have no rails delivery. We will be suppressed from being a pickup as well as a sending location. So if your staff sees that warning, kind of like the Crystal Lake warning, you cannot place a hold on this item. We won't be doing a pick list till after Labor Day, most likely. And staff will be working remotely, but most are taking vacation. So that means I looked at some of the statistics, Evanston, Glenview, Winnetka, and Northbrook will be the ones that most of our patrons do visit as a sidebar. So you might see patrons needing help to request a pickup location if they're looking for their materials immediately. But we're trying to get communication out. This coming Tuesday will be our first blast, as well as we ran a report of all active users who pick up holds at our location to let them know we will be closing for this period of time. Mieko, correct me if I'm wrong, but we become hidden on August, I think it's 5th. It's like a Wednesday or Thursday. So 10 days lead. Oh, August 4th. August 4th. We will no longer be sending material out. So we will be delayed if your patrons are looking for something or being returned to your library, just as a heads up. And then we make no material due until September 10th because we want to get through the Labor Day holiday, and it just makes sense for patrons to be notified that Tuesday that material will be due that Saturday. So we just wanted to give you all a heads up before we close.
thank you.
Question? Yeah. I think it's mostly going to be that transfer of holds for new pickup locations is going to be new for our patrons.
So Kim, what did you say you were closing, Wilmette? August what?
Yep, our last day of being open will be August 14th, which is a Saturday.
Okay,
And then we will reopen to staff roughly August 31st.
okay, August
The
31st.
building is tentatively going to be open to patrons on September 1.
Okay,
Okay.
all right, thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, good luck.
All right, we ready to move on then? Okay, so the next topic is Anne, Prospect Heights. She wants to talk about rails and their
Hi.
barcode placement. Yep.
Thanks, Karen.
Mhm.
So my director had mentioned to me last week or the week before that Rails is considering standardizing the placement of barcodes on items. And he suggested that that might be something we wanted to chat about and perhaps, help determine those standards. So I think a lot of the libraries, we do have similar barcode placements. There are a few outliers, but so I'm just bringing it up if anybody wants to chat about it.
So I will say, I don't know, I just want to kind of cite where the Rails discussion came from, just in case anyone wants to go back and hear what Rails had to say. So they, kind of moving backwards for some context, Rails enlisted a consultant to perform a delivery study that concluded earlier this year. So that was their like findings and summaries are presented at the April 2021 member update. So that recording is available online. I think you can I'll find the link and I'll send it in the chat once I finish talking here. But you can, yeah, there's a segment in it where you hear the consultant kind of discuss the study, and then you kind of hear Dee Brennan's like summary of what they're thinking of in the next step. So like the goal of the study was basically just to kind of evaluate current services and like see what options are available for improved or streamlined services, which include automation. And you know, the automation options they looked at could potentially involve a universal barcode placement. So at this time, like it sounds like conversations are super preliminary, like they're not proposing or recommending or pursuing anything. I think they just kind of want to like gather ideas for possibilities and identify things that they may have to talk about in the future. So with that, I will turn the conversation back over to you guys. But I also just want to make it clear, like before anyone starts to worry, like CCS is not proposing or recommending like anything. And, you know, without knowing what Rails is going, like we're not going to take any steps because obviously it's very labor intensive and expensive to move barcodes. So you don't have to worry about CCS asking anything of you at this time.
My director just likes to get a jump on things, so that's why I'm
Well,
bringing it.
our director does also, because I heard also about this, and I heard that, well, I think Displays would be ahead of the game, because I did hear that they wanted the barcodes located on the back of all materials. Again, I think it would be, I think it would be, I mean, barcodes are all over the place. So, I mean, it isn't like, you know, standard. I mean, ours are on the inside. Some people have it on the back, inside cover. Some have it on the front. It would be a big, you know, undertaking to have to change the location of all barcodes in, you know, our libraries. So
I have to say, the
Yeah, I
barcodes
agree.
on the back at Displays drive me a little crazy because
Yes.
our scanners
Yeah, they
pick
do
them
us
up.
too.
Pick up
because
the
they're right
UPC
over the
codes.
ISBN
Or
number.
the
And the
ISBN,
ISBN all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It makes sense if it follows the wrapper. It would make sense if it follows the whole wrapper. So that way, like right now we have to open our book because ours is on the first page. So we have to put it on, we put our wrapper over the first page. If it's, I think, Ela is on the front left corner and then someone's on the back right corner. So we move our whole wrapper based upon the barcode label to make it easier for patrons. So I think
Oh, that's a great
something-
idea. I never thought of that, Kim. I see our
Yeah,
business
so that-
struggling to get those old wrappers off. That's a fabulous
Yeah.
idea.
So we make it so that way the wrapper follows the barcode of the library, and then we fold over if like it's a DVD so that they can scan it easily. That would be my only suggestion, is looking at the wrapper. Since most libraries have gone to open hold, don't have the barcode be hidden by the wrapper.
Good idea.
Oh,
Yeah,
nice
and
little
CCS
note there. Nice little note from John there in chat. You can change your scanners so they don't read ISBNs. Thanks, John.
I would love to know how to do that because I don't think I have any control over my scanners, quite honestly.
Because John
I
did
mean, I think
that,
my newer ones, but the old ones, I don't know.
because
John, let me know how to do that.
yeah, because he said it also, none of our barcode scanners, it knows what to scan. It's like not a thing. The ISBN never really bothers us, but he fixed it. So you can't have John,
Huh.
but he can help.
The scanners come with either a book or it's probably online now with a barcode.
don't.
You scan the barcode and it sends it into setup mode. And then you just
Okay.
tell it what kind of barcodes you want to read.
Huh.
They either default to all or none. You have to figure that out. And then you just tell it you only want to read Codabar.
Codabar. I will see if I can find a manual, because I'm telling you, they're pretty old. But thank you for that. Maybe online I can find something. Well,
Any
just
other
something to think
thoughts on
about.
that? Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's the kind of, yeah, I think most people, I heard about it too. And I got the same impression from Catherine that wasn't like barreling ahead, but that, yeah, she just said, I suspect there'd be a lot of discussion before it happened, because like you said, there's so many places people have them. So it would mean that whatever they decide for a group of libraries, it's going to be a big issue. And it would be, I don't know if RFID would change anything, if libraries that have that make a difference, but yeah, it sounded to me like it'd be a discussion before it happened.
Yeah, it's pretty
Definitely.
impactful, I think, the whole idea, so.
It'd be very impactful.
Mhm.
Yeah, and for that reason too, like it's something that until we kind of know which direction Rails is going in, we're not really sure what we can talk about, like what we should decide, I guess, as CCS, since this is going to be like Rails. So I guess everyone just, keep your ears open. And
I guess I just wonder how Rails can change that or implement that if in fact they don't have everybody putting the barcodes in the same place, because otherwise it would be very difficult for them to implement a plan where automated, it'd have to have the barcode readily available in the same spot for the machine to work. Otherwise you have somebody constantly flipping, looking for the barcode. So we'd have to be in compliance with it for them to be successful at using such a setup. At least that's my thinking, but I don't know. All right. On that depressing note, let's move forward. No. Okay, so our next thing is, fine free. So we're gonna go fine free. I think there's only 3 of us in the consortium that aren't yet, so we are venturing that way, I think, in this fall. We did get board approval, so now it's just, we're kind of, we have to wait till this fall though sometime. So I don't like reinventing the wheel, and many of you do it already. So I just was gonna put it out there, like, what are some pointers or ideas or issues that you ran into, or things that I should pay attention to when we're doing it? One thing comes to mind, which is all the people that already have fines on their account. Did you find it easier to, as they came up to check out, you just waved it, didn't say anything, you just waved it, and then, they don't even know it's on there because you're waiving fines. So, or did you do it all in bulk and find that better?
We did it all in bulk. It made it a lot easier.
Did it?
I can't remember if there was a fee to do it. Mieko, do you remember if that was the case?
I should know this. I don't remember actually.
I might be able to find it somewhere in my email. Karen, I'll look and.
Yeah, I don't recall there being a fee when we did it, but I don't know. And there still were a few fines
Who do you have do it though?
CCS did it.
Yeah, well, we have to contract with Innovative because there isn't a way for us to bulk remove fines.
We can't do that through through the client, I feel like you can, but no, you can't.
No, there is a patron bulk change feature in the staff client, but it does not
include
involve
money.
Right.
Okay.
Karen, we could have done it individually and have staff members waive one by one, but that would have taken a lot of staff time, which is why I'm pretty sure we ended up paying for it.
Yeah, it's worth it probably.
See, we did it before that was an option, and it honestly took us 2 weeks max to go through all of our patrons, and
it's not very long, so that was pretty good.
No, and we were at the benefit that it was during the holiday, so it was slow anyway. So there wasn't a lot happening at the time. And honestly, I think staff enjoyed it because it's one of the few like positive things. It's like I'm gonna get rid of all of this. And so they were just going to town on it.
Liberating, right?
Exactly, yeah. So if it isn't free, it really didn't take us as long as we were expecting.
Okay.
And staff kind of just latched onto it.
Okay. Was there anything with like notices and things like that that you had to change or anything like that? I don't know. I have to go look at the list of what you're supposed to do when you go find free, I guess. Maybe that would help, right?
Karen, one thing I noticed, just for your IPLAR reporting,
Yeah.
we lost a lot of patrons. So both, I think when we did it at Evanston, because we did it during the pandemic, so Gabby and a lot of the staff sat there and manually removed while we were closed. But our IPLAR reporting, we lost because of the non-activity for so long, we lost a lot of patrons. So,
do you
because
mean
there was-
because when you took the fines off, that the count was then able to be deleted because it was expired and therefore, because that's the only thing that kept it hanging in there was because the fines hold it there? I see.
yeah, because depending upon what your threshold was, and I don't know if you sent a collection, something to think about with Unique, if you want to continue with that sort of service either. We don't do it here at Wilmette, but there may be another library that still is fines free that uses Unique and change their threshold of how much they send.
Yeah, that's a good point. Because we all know when we change one thing in our little area, it changes 5 other things that we were like, oh no. So thank you for that idea.
Nina at Carrie says that they did it manually there. And
Oh,
Erin
okay.
found her email and she said it was $1,000 fee.
Oh, thank you, Erin.
Innovative for the bulk wave.
Okay.
Well, and I guess it would depend too on how big your patron.
Probably how many
database
it is then, yeah.
I
That's a
mean,
good point.
whether it would be, okay for you to just go through manually, or if it would be just better like Erin to just pay the fee and have them do it.
Our patrons are so good. We have very few that have fines, so no, I'm kidding.
Yeah, okay. Well, good for you.
I am
Maybe
so
I'll give you
kidding.
some of ours.
That is so far from the truth.
We just sort the list and do the ones that have big fines that might really be blocking them or something. The ones that have small fines, it's kind of fun for the staff to say, hey, no problem, we're fine free now. It's another way to spread the word.
Yeah, that's
If
true.
it's somebody who's got, a 30-cent fine or whatever it is, it's a
Yeah, small
minor
amount, no
too.
big deal. Yeah.
When they come to check out, you can go, hey, you know what? We're fine free now. Let me clear that out for you.
Mm-hmm.
Because we use that for some of the smaller ones too. I tried to get at the ones where it was blocking them. They had so many
Okay.
fines, they were blocked. So I tried to get at those so that they would use their account.
Well, it's not easy really to define, well, when if a report is run for it to do bulk, they're just pulling anything that says fine, not replacement.
I just say, you
Right?
guys can go through and you could see a total and they just went through and did some of the big totals.
Yeah, okay.
Clear those early so they can get on it and then, let the staff have the fun of giving them the small ones that aren't that much anyway and haven't
Mhm.
keeping them from anything anyway.
Yeah. So
Are you-
Ann says, then I guess we did it. I guess we did it manually. I would have remembered that bill of $1,000. Very good, Ann.
Yeah, it was during the pandemic and we were under renovation. So there was a lot going on here. So yeah, I do believe now that I'm thinking about it, my staff did it.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, several of you
Erin-
did it manually. Okay,
Yeah.
so it's a mixed thing. You can do it.
Kind
Okay.
of depends on how big the list is, how big the library is.
Yeah.
If you've got some people who there are people who enjoy going through it, satisfying.
Yeah, it
I
can be
agree
probably
with
in
you,
some
yeah.
way, right? Letting go of the whole idea, it's like,
But the nice thing is, but what I found was with the fine free, patrons were so happy about it.
sure.
That it wasn't, why haven't you removed it yet? Wasn't the question. They were just happy we were doing it then and that was what was going to happen going on. It's
Yeah, well,
really-
yesterday I had someone call me about some fines. I said, you know what, we're going fine free, not a problem. So I've already started practicing.
Yeah.
Are you
They
okay?
did this pretty quick.
Somebody gonna say,
Karen,
yeah.
Karen, are you okay if we start waiving fines that come through for Glenview, if we see them?
Yeah, that's fine. You guys can do that.
So we can waive.
Actually, I
fines for
probably
Glenview.
shouldn't say that because we have to collect a certain amount of money by, I think, November when we're gonna start it. the board wants to
Well-
meet the budget this year, budgeted.
that number has
expected
been
amount. Yeah, so
included.
I take that back. This is recorded, right? I take that back, everybody.
Delete that.
Oops.
Karen, it's being paid for at my library. It's being paid for. You're not going to see that money anyways, and it's my.
Oh, yeah, you're right, Kim. Then yeah, I get you.
So you're I waive any view fines on Wilmette patrons. That's okay, because I would
Yeah,
do it
that's-
anyway, but I've always felt that it's your
Yeah.
money, but collecting it anyways. So
Right. Yeah, we're not gonna see it if it's at your library, so,
It's,
I mean, we don't get it back, so it's not like any big deal.
you're planning to start in November.
That's right now, the projected
The
date, we're gonna
projected
try and see if we can, but that's not in stone yet, but I'm pretty confident I can make it happen by then, but
Yeah.
I'll keep you I'm glad we're doing this, so it's like long overdue, so.
And Karen,
Ha,
one
ha,
last
ha.
thing.
And you get my pun? I said it's long overdue. All right, never mind, go on, what?
Uh, one last thing, we just did as a little extra like cherry was, in addition to all those patrons who had fines, we pulled the email addresses of patrons who were blocked over that $10 threshold. And we sent out an email saying like, you're not
Oh,
blocked
that is an
anymore.
Excellent idea.
Because so many of them probably just wrote off the library that they could never come
Yeah,
back.
because it stopped them from coming in because they didn't want
Right.
to, couldn't pay or whatever the reasons were, or whatever. Oh, okay, so.
Karen, are you able to hear me from Palatine?
Yeah,
Oh, good. Okay, I'm sorry, I haven't talked on this group before. I
Yeah.
just wanted to share with you something comms wise that we ran into. We just switched over Fine Free last September,
okay.
and people really thought Fine Free meant you could keep the book forever, that their
Yes.
account wouldn't be blocked. It was very interesting about 30 days
Mhm.
outside of the process. So I would just encourage you to get your communications team with email or what goes in your newsletter to really show, hey, your account is blocked after 20 days, how soon it goes to loss, that you will be billed for the item. And that when somebody has a hold, you truly can't keep it for your 3 renewals or it'll block. So we had a lot of people have to get familiar with the fact that a hold item didn't mean you keep it forever and there's no fine.
Yeah, that's a
Right.
good point.
So
Yeah,
comms
we
was
have
really important.
We've
Mm.
experienced the same.
Did you?
Yeah, we had the
Okay.
same thing at the beginning, but then they started getting it as you
Yeah.
start explaining, like, yeah, we're not gonna fine you, but we're also not gonna keep checking out to you if you haven't returned. It's sort of I kept telling people, it's a carrot stick.
It is. And even
Right.
like
Carrot is
the
fine
digital
free.
piece getting blocked.
Yeah, stick is you
Right.
get blocked a
Yeah,
little.
that's
bit.
what'll happen the
Mhm.
big time is they get pretty upset about, they can't get to their ebooks and this and that. kind of
Exactly.
stuff. Yeah.
You know, it'll be a kid's book that they think is out and then the adults aren't getting
Yeah.
their ebooks. So there was just the communication's huge that you can't keep it forever.
Yeah.
And,
good-
for
good to
any
know.
new patron, we always explain that in when we're giving them a card that, we're fine
Yeah.
free, and we kind of like explain exactly, like at 45 days, you will be billed. You do need to bring the material back,
Do you think people understand, or do you find not understand, but because clearly they don't, you're telling me they don't, but initially, I mean, it's just about relearning, that's all it is, so that's fine. But do you find that you've had negative kind of feedback because they really get one overdue notice at 2 weeks, right? And then they go from there. I guess you can opt in. Can you opt in for a third? No, it's just 2 weeks
No.
and then billing, isn't it how
So-
it goes now?
So the overdue notices don't change. You're still going to, patrons will still receive them once the item is 3 days overdue, 15 days overdue, and
Oh.
28 days overdue. So they still receive like the standard overdue notices. The block comes into play, 2 weeks. I think libraries are set to like 14 or 15 days after the item is past its due date.
Yeah, so how do people respond to that? Because at 2 weeks, you get an overdue notice, it's your second one then. And then now your account is blocked, which, is really gonna stunt people. I mean, it stops them in their tracks based on what my pattern is of my patrons at the moment. I'm like, have you guys experienced them being upset about that? Or like, because nothing happens, no renewals happen, it just stops, you're blocked, you can't do anything.
I think it does upset them, but a key piece too is I do think you get this group of members who they're very on time with things. They're checking out popular items with hold lists, and they get very upset that members get those extra even 2 weeks before their account is blocked. Like they want them to be fined so they get material back quicker. So there's been this other group of dealing with them that
Oh,
like,
Yeah.
okay, they have to bring it back or they're billed for it, but they don't like the fine free
Right.
piece,
Yeah.
especially our responsible members.
yeah, I do
Erin-
find that people that are responsible, they say, no,
Yeah.
let me still pay the 20 cent. No,
Mhm.
it's fine.
Exactly. Yeah.
Karen,
Yeah.
one thing that we do at Prospect Heights, the summary report that comes out every day, we don't have too many patrons that actually get to that point of getting billed,
Mhm.
thankfully. But when a couple show up on there, we'll give them a call and we'll say, okay, it's been billed to you. If you get it back here within 7 days, we'll take that bill off. But
Mhm.
otherwise, you're on the hook. And it's
Mhm.
amazing. I mean, people have been
Respond.
good. Yeah. Initially, it was confusing for people and tricky, but I think they've got it now.
Yeah,
And
so,
Well,
But
and
that
it
communication
takes a little
piece
time
is
because
super
the
important.
okay,
person that has the book isn't going to be able to get anything else.
Right.
right.
Most of them
stuck.
are not that enamored of what they have. As when we hand the book out, we also just remind people, we're like, it will renew, but if there's a hold, it's not going to.
Mhm.
And now they've.
So they have to be more attentive to their own account and what's happening to the things on it
And the
is
thing
really
is,
what it sounds like.
You're also able to say if you just bring it back, it will all go away and it won't cost you a dime.
Mhm.
You're putting in all this effort and we're sending out all these emails and it's so simple, just bring it back.
Yeah,
And
So
all right.
sorry.
Yeah.
they eventually they get the rhythm of it. The things that I find that most of the patrons that were a problem before are a problem after. The patrons who weren't a problem before aren't a problem now.
Yeah,
They
all right.
settle into their own ways. Some of them will try to work the system, but after a while, it's not worth it for the one book that's keeping them from getting what they want.
Right. Miyako, did you want to say
Oh,
something?
I was gonna say, I think Anastasia had a question. I just want to
Oh,
make
Yeah,
sure.
thank you. Hi, Ann. I was just curious, what do you mean when you call them and tell them if it's not returned within 7 days, they're on the hook? Will you not accept the item back and just bill them?
So once it's billed to their account,
Mhm.
because it's gone now through that whole process, we've given them
Right.
all kinds of time to get it back to us. Once it's billed, we give them another 7 days to return it. And after that 7 days, we don't take it back.
Oh, wow. How
Yeah, we're
has
tough.
that worked for you guys?
It's worked fine. Because honestly, they've had it now for a very long time. I mean,
Mhm.
I forget what all of our
By the time you get to bill.
timeframes are, but by the time it gets billed to them, they've had it
Yeah.
for plenty of time. And there's,
Do you know
so
there's
I think
other,
we're being nice, giving them another 7 days. And usually we extend it to 10 days, but we
Sure.
tell them 7 days. And during the pandemic, like we just took back whatever they gave. us.
right? Do
Whether
you
it
know
was,
if other libraries do that as well?
I don't know.
I know
what
that
the-
once anything goes to billing for us, they have 2 weeks and then they go to collections.
Yeah,
Because once it goes to billing, I'm done. You pushed it that far.
yeah.
I can't be more
Same.
invested in you getting it back than you're invested in it. So that's what we do.
Yeah,
It
and
works
that's
out
what-
fine.
And honestly, Anastasia, every so often a book will be returned in the Dropbox. That's, like in pristine condition and it's like a 13-year-old kid that didn't return it. And I'm like, just take it off the account, just waive it, check the book in and be done with it. So, I mean, I am flexible, but
Sure.
when we make that phone call, that's what we say. So,
Yeah, it's helpful because we're actually, Park Ridge, of course, is unique and we're in a fine-free trial. That's what our board wanted to do for a year. So hopefully they do approve it or else it'll be a disaster.
oh my
for us.
gosh, your patrons are gonna
no.
go crazy
Yeah.
if you go
Yeah.
back.
I know, trust me. But that is one of the concerns of the board members. Things, of course, are coming back a little bit more late than they did when we had fines. So it's just, trying to think of ideas maybe that will help, that will still get us to keep being fine free. Right now, what we do is we're pretty flexible. If someone's blocked, we'll do a special renew, but then minus 13 days to make sure they're blocked so the item won't keep renewing. To make an exception if they are blocked to help them check out. But we don't have too many of them, but yeah, it's just interesting what other libraries do. So thanks for sharing.
So I have a quick question. So after a book is So for us, for after 45 days, they're billed, correct? What happens if we renew it for the patron a third time? It won't be billed, correct? It's like I've noticed there's a particular patron who has the book out for like, it's been over 3 renewals and she hasn't been billed for the item yet. Was it because we gave her that courtesy renewal and that's why it wasn't sent to bill, or I'm confused with that one?
If the item is 45 days past its due date, it should automatically flip to lost. Now, if notices haven't been generating for the patron, like, if they have that little like checkbox in the record saying, they're exempt from overdue notices or exempt from billing notices, or like print notices haven't been generated, like that item will not flip to loss because that item needs the notice to generate first before the item status changes. So my guess is that that's probably the situation for that patron.
Okay.
If you have the patron information, I would say go ahead and open up a help desk ticket and like we can take a look into it a little further.
All right.
Yeah, we came across that very thing. I was looking at one of those, I don't know, the report was items that are 6 months overdue. And I came across this patron with like 22 DVDs. And it was thousands of dollars worth of DVDs and none of them were billed to his account. I was like, what? And some of them didn't belong to us. So of course I felt responsible. Anyway, I alerted Mieko and she said it was because there was his account showed, I'm just looking at the patron registration thing. It showed something like no notices or, whatever that field is, I forget.
Yeah, the patron, I remember, yeah.
But I thought to myself, there is no way we're going to get those DVDs back. He brought them all back the next day.
Oh,
It was like a miracle. And then he was going, and he had like a big bag and he was going over to each individual library. And I was like, yeah, you go ahead and do that. I'm not going to take, he didn't even offer to give me Northbrooks or Wilmettes or anything. He just was going to visit all the libraries. So perhaps you had a visit from him.
I have a question about that. So if he's allowed to have that setting that's preventing the notices, no? What happened with how did that
You just
happen?
ran a report on that, didn't you?
Yes, patrons should not be exempt from like overdue or bill notices, and they should all have a notice preference specified. And that's where, so I can't remember how long ago it was at this point, but we did a bulk update of patrons who had like none listed as a notice preference. Just for that reason, so they could get.
Because I remember getting the report from you showing what everybody's numbers were on how many.
The other thing is if they have phone notifications set up, you have to manually set that up. So I think that's a lot of it for some of the billings, if they're phone notifications, if you forget to run your bills or your over. I was going to say something, I think someone had mentioned, Anastasia, it maybe have been you, about trying to get material back. We looked at our renewal policy. So we ended up thinking about how many renewals do we allow for our patrons on certain materials to get items back? So we allow 4 renewals. We've looked at reevaluating that to 2 or 3 to get materials back a little bit sooner, because I mean, by the time it's done, they can have 4 weeks worth of stuff, basically, or I'm sorry, 4 months worth of things on their account. So like our hot picks just went to no renewals. We changed our DVDs to only 7-day checkouts, no renewals. So some of those things to think about to get the material back sooner.
Yeah, I feel like, I feel like our board's pretty concerned with like holds more. So in theory, it should be blocked, but yeah, it's, tricky because we do have some people that rather pay fines, instead of having their account blocked. And then it's, trying to show customer service, but then it doesn't really work if you're not strict with it, so it's, I mean, it's been working well, but there's just a few things that are a little tricky, so.
I think that's my biggest concern is the blocking at 2 weeks, because we don't normally do that now. And so to do that, it's going to be a new kind of stopper.
Right.
For some
that
people.
Was one of my biggest concerns, especially for our community. We have a more wealthy community. So to me, I felt like they rather probably pay fines and have their carts blocked.
Yeah.
But for the most part, it's gone a lot better than I anticipated. And we only have a few people that comments, well, I'd rather just pay my fine, you know, so.
And you're on trial period for 1 year, you said?
Yeah, originally it was 6 months because our board is very data driven. So they're trying, poor Bob is helping us with all these fine-free reports every month, but they're trying to compare a bunch of data from when we're on the fine model to the block model, because their concern was, well, people are going to keep materials longer. And honestly, it is a little bit longer, you know. But for me, it's a customer service thing as well. To go back, I just think would be a nightmare. And like I told our director, we're not a hospital. If someone has, you know, I'd rather wait 3 or 4 days longer to get my library items and not, you know, pay overdue fines. But I don't know if the board will see it that way. So we'll have to see.
Yeah. So Mieko, do we have an option to not block it 2 weeks? You just send the notices out, overdue notices, and then bill at 45 days?
I will have to check official
Is that an
policy, but
option?
I believe it's like if you're fine free
Same.
block. But let me check.
Okay.
Have you?
Karen, I
have-
think you
Oh,
could
sorry,
pick the
Mr.
number of, no, I'm sorry, Mako. You can pick the number of days that you block at. So we just chose
45.
days.
No, I know. So, well, during COVID, before COVID, libraries could do like 14 or 15 days. During COVID, we allowed libraries, you know, to kind of pick a date that worked with them with the quarantine period. But now that we're post-COVID, let me check on
Back
things for
to
you,
it.
Karen.
Okay.
Well, and can't you actually put in how many like items it'll block on, like for that 2 week?
Not necessarily. So there's like 2 separate long overdue settings that kind of interact here. One governs the desk checkout and SIP connected devices, so like your self-check and your overdrive. And that will block no matter how many long overdue items you have. There's another setting that governs things like renewals. And weirdly enough, API connected services. So like some of your other like ebook services. And with that, I believe, don't quote me on this because I'm gonna have to double check it. I believe you are able to like say like, okay, allow the patron to renew their items unless they have like 3 long overdues.
Okay.
So yeah, so it gets a little complicated with the different settings that like dictate different actions.
Okay. Yeah, because I think we had an issue with that or whatever. It didn't seem like it was, you know, it was, yeah, letting people do things and then not. And yeah, okay. So that interesting.
Yeah, it gets a little, I will say my recommendation is kind of keep things like streamlined so you don't give patrons all these different numbers.
Yeah. All right.
I
Well,
have
thank
another-
you, everybody.
I have
go
another
ahead.
quick question with so after, that's where I'm a little bit confused. So if let's say that a patron doesn't return a book that's popular, because that's what happens usually, you know, especially if it has a hold. After 2 weeks, it will block?
Yeah, so once it hits 2 weeks overdue, it's considered a long overdue item and a block is automatically added to the patron's account.
Okay. So then, yeah, I have to tell you about that patron then, because it should have been blocked then after that, yeah.
Yeah, we'll check your, after the meeting, I'll open up a ticket with you, Gabby, and we'll check the settings for Robinson.
Yeah, all right, thank you.
All right, thank you, everybody. Excellent information. I appreciate it. So moving on to the next item. Oh, it's me again. Oops, no. This one's about RFID, which we are going to go that route as well. And I'm wondering, we're not doing the automated handling component of it. I just want the hardware and software as far as check in, check out at the desk, and then new self-checks and new gates, you know, things of that sort. So I'm wondering, as far as the consortium goes, you know, is there like, what are the things that, the big things that you've run into or advice you have about, like maybe something you didn't know, like, oh my gosh, we got to get that fixed. I forgot about that, or we've got to. So like, for example, I'm going to be getting the security gates, and I don't know what vendor everybody has gone with. I think Biblioteca is like the primary one, but the gates, my understanding is they will light up if somebody goes through that hasn't checked out something, or
Yeah.
you can pick a tone you like and have this chime or sound at the same time. But there's also software that'll sit on a computer, whichever one you choose, that actually records what goes out the door that wasn't checked out. So at least you know, in case you didn't call the patron back to take care of the issue.
Yeah.
Is that true for all of you?
Yeah, Karen, we have,
Okay.
if you ever want to come visit us at Park Ridge, we just had
Yeah.
Aaron out a few weeks from Northbrook.
Field trip.
Yeah. So we do have Biblioteca security gates. They
Mhm.
do beep, and then we get a message on the screen with the barcode.
Oh, is that all
so-
you see is just the barcode of the item?
Yeah, so then we'll usually stop them, say, oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't check out. Do you mind coming to the desk so we can double check?
Okay.
Sometimes it will show green, which means it was checked out, but they didn't use RFID tag. Maybe they scanned the barcode, so it didn't deactivate the security tag.
Oh, interesting.
But if it's red, it was actually not checked out at all.
I like that idea.
So green means they use the barcode and not the RFID piece aspect of it. where
Most
it
of the
shuts the
time,
li-
yeah. Mhm.
Okay.
Except in a weird instance, at least for us, our IT staff actually found that if patrons use the RFID on the self-checks and they remove it too quickly, yeah, it'll still ring up as red. And so it's almost become a
Oh.
nuisance. Yeah, so it's like, this is good. We stopped you for no reason. And
Uh-oh.
But does it show green or red?
red still.
Oh, really?
Even though it
Yeah.
really was checked out to them?
Yes, because it
Oh,
was
no.
removed too quickly it was long enough that it read it to check it out, but too fast for it to be deactivated.
Yeah. Yeah, Michelle?
I just wanted to tell you, since most people do have Biblioteca, we actually just purchased all new self-checks and gates last month. Or has it even been longer than that? Never mind, it's been maybe 2 months. I can't keep track of time. But
I don't think
we have-
anybody can.
yeah, I don't know what year it is or what my.
I
name
don't
is, but that's
either.
okay. We have Envisionware, so that's like another option. And the things that people are saying, some of the same stuff is happening with us. I don't know that it matters which brand you have.
Mhm.
I mean, we're not having the issue where things are not checking out, but we do like it, it does, the alarm beeps even when somebody's checked something out because it didn't get disabled. And it's hard because we're in a consortium. So we've got, 28 libraries and not all of them have the RFID, fine, but some of them do have RFID, but it's placed in different places and maybe it's not as sensitive or what. So there's like Indian Trails items are
Problematic.
currently a nightmare of mine because Envisionware is trying to figure out how to.
They
make
use a
it so that-
different tag.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh,
And
that's
They
why.
were
They
able
have-
to figure out like the different tag, but it's also in a different area of the code. So they're having to reprogram something completely. I don't know.
You mean within your equipment in your building so that it
No,
can
like
read it?
within the code that is in the software that they use.
Oh,
They have to be able to say, oh, you also have to look at line 150, whatever. I don't even
Yeah.
completely understand, but we even had somebody come out and I checked out items from a bunch of your libraries, like item holds to test. And Indian Trails was the one that was giving us the most problems, but hopefully they're going to be able to fix that. So, like you were saying with the fine stuff, you fix one thing and you're like, yay, I've got gates.
yeah,
and
it
it's
impacts
telling
many
me,
things,
but
right?
then like some other stuff happens where it's still beeping when somebody checks something out and then I have to decide, okay, the vendor's saying every time it beeps, you need to call the person back so you can take the security off. But I also don't want to be, oh, you've used our stuff and now I'm being annoying and making you come back to the desk. And
Yeah.
so it's lovely, but there's
Yeah.
still that are,
I think everything has its pros and cons for
Exactly.
sure.
We have problems with it.
I'm just
when
hoping I
people
have less
stop.
less
Yes.
cons with this whole issue, so.
I would say from our experience, the first few months, it might be stuff like that, but now we're like a well-oiled machine, and
Yeah, you can
I'm
kind of get
very-
it going.
I'm very thankful, and the sorter is really amazing. I would consider it, our staff really love it, and
I
just
don't
some-
really, for sorting for me, if I circled over 1 million a year, I'd get the sorter, but we do not. So to me, it's not cost, that's not really, that's just my thinking on it. or
Yeah.
whatever, But yeah.
Yeah,
So,
another tip that we do at Park Ridge is we temporarily RFID all of our ILL holds that come from libraries that aren't RFID. So it's kind of streamlined for the patron when they check out. So you don't have to train them. Sometimes you're going to scan a barcode. Sometimes it's going to have an RFID tag. So that's something we do.
I
yeah,
have a question about that and those
Mhm.
RFID tags for ILL items. If they come back with the item, what does, what happens with you guys sometimes we've sent some back, but sometimes we just hold them here.
Yeah, you can send them back.
Does it, then that the person returned it though, and it just got sent back with
Yeah,
our
I'll go-
item?
Yeah, I'll go to the exception bin. So then we'll check it in manually then.
so, Dana, were you gonna say something? You had your hand up a bit ago.
Oh yeah, I was just I'm also at Displain. I will say like one benefit to Envisionware, despite all the headaches with the Indian Trail stuff, is that when someone, Biblioteca might have this too, I don't know, but when someone exits and like leaves through our gates and they didn't check something out, it does tell us the title, which is, I think, is worth all of the headache, because you have the patron with 20 kids books and you're like, oh, can you give me Magic Ramen? You missed that one. And it saves everyone, the patron and us, a
Well,
lot of
that's
time
a
trying
good
to like
point, because if they're
dig
just
through.
giving you the barcode, you're like, what?
Yeah,
A little more work, you gotta go to look it up to see what it is,
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Biblioteca does too, but I have to triple check.
Oh, maybe it's just you're not having it turned on at the moment to see the title, Anastasia?
Maybe it doesn't happen that often, so to be
Oh,
honest, I
okay.
could just be forgetting.
I forgot it's a well-oiled machine. It's working well.
Yeah, so I could check and email you, Karen.
Karen, ours does show the title in addition
It
to the
does?
barcode. Yeah, we're
Okay.
Biblioteca too.
All right, good. And then, Aaron, you said that you used Backstage to tag all your items. Yeah, and how long did it take roughly?
Oh, I'd have to look. I feel like it was 3 to 4 weeks though.
I
But
figure it's
I'll
gonna
look-
take about a month for me to get everything done here, 2 months maybe.
I'll look and see what it actually was though.
Yeah, thank you. Did anybody else do it themselves with your own teams of people, or did you all hire someone to come in and tag? Oh, Kim, you have your hand up. Mhm.
Yeah, so Wilmette did it in-house. We're still tagging since January. So we're at the last stages. We decided to no longer use jewel cases. So we're doing the plastic sleeves. So so one thing we noticed is when our TS staff cataloged, all the barcodes were on the jewel cases. So we had to relabel all of the sleeves. So we're just about done. But we also did it during COVID, so we couldn't work in team settings. One thing I will say that we didn't know, if you decide to go with Biblioteca, get all your training prior to anything, because they weren't that coordinated in that sense. And it would have helped us out a lot if they had individually done some of the training. And our representative maybe didn't tell us, or we may have missed the fact that we could inventory the whole entire collection. So basically they have to insert it into the tagging machines, a code that says, hey, each barcode is scanned, and then you can compile a list to do an inventory to see what's actually in your catalog versus what you RFID'd.
Excellent, thank you, Kim. That is very good. Do it.
Yeah, so get all training ahead of time.
Yeah, no, and then the other thing too is okay, so do you guys have, did any of you get the wand for inventorying the collection after the fact? And everybody's rolling their eyes. I love the wand, so I don't know. You guys need to tell me what's your experience with the wand? Or
They're
why you don't
back.
like it? Huh?
They're ordered.
They're back
Almost
ordered, is that what you said?
Yep, we've
Oh,
been
your
waiting
voice
for
cut
our,
out, okay. Mhm.
sorry, since January, we've been waiting for our wands.
We bought
And-
one, but we haven't used it in 2 years.
You haven't used it yet?
It's just trying to figure it out has been a little,
Oh,
maybe it's just
problematic.
me, but
Mhm.
Not
it just
you,
seems like,
Anastasia.
okay,
We
it's
didn't
like
use ours. It was a
always
pain and
on my
it took-
shoulder, you know.
Michelle, did you get them, the wand?
we bought the wand and it was such a nightmare to use. We got trained on it and then it was more of a pain in the butt to use it than, it cost like, back when we bought it.
They are
It's
expensive.
like $3,000 or something. And then we
Yeah.
had to pay $700 a year for maintenance of it. And when we realized that, I was like, we're not even using it. I'm like, I hate this thing. Just so sorry. Other people might have wonderful experiences.
So
That
you
was
ditched
just-
the wand, did you?
ditched the wand.
Well, I love inventorying our collection. We currently do it with a laptop and scanner out in the stacks and we in a shelf list, and we can tell exactly right at that moment what needs to be pulled, something's not matching up correctly. And I thought, well, with the wand, it would be quite easy. You just, because right now we have to slide the book out and scan, you're kind of that motion. But with the wand, you just zoop, and then you have to go download the report is the problem though. And then you got to go back to the stacks with the report and pull what you see is what I think the process is. Is that correct? Or does anybody not know?
Something like that. That's a theory.
Okay.
Yeah, and to be honest, I mean, I could be misspeaking. Maybe it is really easy to use. Just with COVID, I really haven't had a chance to dedicate as much time to figuring it out.
Well, there's
so.
no cheerleader for the wand clearly in this group, so I'll have to look at that and see then.
There's an additional comment from Athena. They have the wand, but they don't use it because it will read items on different shelves.
Oh my heavens, it's that powerful?
Well, not only that, but like when you're scanning different size items. So when you're scanning youth and the books are picture books,
Yes.
it's very difficult to make sure that it's picking up every single one because they're so small and skinny. And then you've got the larger books upstairs, like on the third or in the fiction and nonfiction
Yeah.
section. And it might read those better, but for the kids for it's like a nightmare. I don't know.
Oh,
We tried
wow.
all sorts of things and by the end, I just cried. It was
Clearly
bad.
flustered with the whole process. Okay.
One other thing, Karen, if you decide to Biblioteca and you get the 1,000 self-checkouts, they have a little lip at the bottom of the base, preventing it to be on the floor and a non-tripping hazard, and they cannot fix the base. So the 1,000 units have a little bit of a lip. So if you plan on having them in an open area, we've been
Yeah.
trying to figure out how to fix that. Right now, they're against a wall.
Interesting you say that. Because I have, they're called 1000s?
Yes, the 1,000s. The 500s can be on a stand, which
I
is
have
great.
self-check 500s. So
You're
is
good.
that-
They come in.
Those are good?
You're good.
Okay.
Yeah, you can come see ours if you'd like. We're the nearest library that has them.
Okay, field trip, everybody. I'm coming to visit you all. All right. Okay, my heavens, my mind is just going off the top. Okay, let's move to the next topic. Thank you, everybody, for your input on that. I'm sure you all had a head scratcher when you were doing it too. So, but actually, over half of us are in the consortium are on RFID, so that's good. Okay, so the next topic which we've added on is Michelle, and you wanted to chat about claims returned. So take it away.
Okay, so there's a couple parts to this and I apologize in advance if I'm rambling because claims in general are kind of giving us a headache, and I have found it a bit difficult, and because I don't feel like there's an obvious roadmap that we're all using, I have some questions. So currently, if a patron comes into our library and says, I returned this item and we don't have it, we mark it claims returned, and then we do shelf checks for it when it's our item. If it's not our item, we are also claiming it. And we're assuming that the other libraries in CCS are looking at their reports so that they see, oh, look, we have these items that people are claiming, we have to go do shelf checks. Now, the reason why I'm talking about this is I'm looking at a lot of records for patrons and seeing that they have they have lost items on their accounts from other libraries that are like a year, 2 years old. And I'm like,
Wow.
people, are they not cleaning up their lost stuff? And like, are we the way, I know that some libraries will call other libraries and say, hey, just so you know, my patron's claiming they returned this, go do a shelf check. I'm not doing that because honestly, I don't think I have the manpower to do it, because we get a lot of, and I also don't know like what your guys' lists look like when you're looking at your claims, because at any one time I have easily over 50. So it's complicated. Can you guys tell me like what you do when somebody claims that they returned an item from another library?
Claim returned.
Say again?
We mark them as claimed returned since you can run a report later and look for those items.
Okay.
We'll call the home library and do a shelf check at our library.
Okay, so it doesn't get marked claimed?
Not right away, no. And then after, usually we do have a shelf check procedure where anything that's claims return, we'll do a shelf check 3 times. And then we'll kind of talk with the patron and they'll either pay for it or mark it as claimed
But
return.
that's if it's your item, right?
Either way.
So if it's my item, you check your shelf for it.
Once, probably.
And then
yeah.
you call me.
Mhm.
You were probably calling Lori, but whatever. Look, by the way, I'd like to make an announcement that Lori, who you guys have seen in these meetings forever, is no longer in the material services manager position, but Dana got promoted to it. So yay, Dana. Sorry. So you would call here and then we would, okay, I get that. I'm sorry. So Anne,
We do the same as Anastasia. We never hit that claims return button. And 99% of the time the book shows up because they all think they returned. And they did.
Well,
So
that's
we do
exactly why we use
3 shelf checks and
So I had emailed each of the kind of CERC managers or the CCS individually about kind of getting missing in transit list, as well as like what shelf checks. Some libraries preferred the email, some libraries preferred the phone call. I'm waiting on one library and I can definitely send that out, Michelle, if you decide to. I mean, we do the same as Anastasia and but each library is different because of their manpower. Some want the phone call and some would prefer the email so that they can check back.
And I actually would prefer neither. Because if it's all in one place, if it's just coming from that report and then I know, oh, okay, there's something that got claimed and now we have to go look for it. So there's nothing, Mieko, there's nothing in the manual about like procedure on this, correct?
This is what we have. I have the manual. Let me read from the manual here. Libraries can claim an intra-CCS loan item without consulting the owning library. Libraries will be checking the claims return report on a regular basis to check the shelves for a claimed item. And then libraries should make the usual efforts to recover items or the cost of items from intra-CCS loans. Libraries will not send payment back and forth for claimed items. So there's no requirement to like call one another prior to claiming an intra-CCS item. But like Michelle says, the expectation is that you're checking the report to see which of your items are claimed and then check your shelves for them.
Well, and also sometimes we're calling because patrons standing in front of us saying, I want you to call that library and tell them that or they're going to bother you.
And that's
Mhm.
fine. That's fine. There's just not,
I usually deal with that whole situation when if it's a patron right in front of me. Otherwise, it seems to work out in the wash a lot of the time, like one of them was saying. A lot of things eventually come back. So, but
So
yeah,
that's
usually if
different.
a staff member from Lake Forest is calling, it's because the patron in some way is asking us to.
Mhm.
Wants
Yeah,
us
no, that's
or
not,
get
yeah.
back to them with your response. And I'm perfectly fine with, we can't look till Friday. We'll check into it. Then I just tell them they're going to check. They can't
Right.
do it this exact second. But that's when I would call. It's when there's a patron push about it.
Okay, so one thing that sounds different is that I think we have a lot more claims return than what it sounds like the rest of you do, because we get a lot, and like I don't know, I don't want 25% of the people who are claiming stuff aren't even our patrons, but that's beside the point. So the other piece of this that I guess I'm having issues trying to figure out is if a person comes in and pays for a lost item, and if it ends up being for an item at another library, I can't change the status of the item once it's been paid for. So then it just says lost accruing, and the other library has to delete the stuff. But like I said, it's still, I'm just seeing a lot of things that are on patrons accounts for a long time. I'm going to have a bunch of new people starting because we're finally, we no longer have the hiring freeze. And so I'm worried in particular, like when you look at someone's account and you're like, oh, look, they have 5 lost accruing items, but they really don't, they've paid for it. It should be a done deal. And I wish there was a way that I could take that stuff off the patrons' accounts so they don't see it, but obviously I can't because I can't withdraw other people's stuff. You might be mad about that. So I was just curious if people were actually looking at these lost items and doing something about them.
Well, I think for us, what helps with the 3 shelf checks, and it's not even about doing the 3 shelf checks, is buying time. Because I'll tell you, about 98% of the time, the patron's going to find it and return it. 98% of the time. So I feel like if I'm going to mark that claims returned right away, I'm losing my chance of ever getting those items back.
I
But we
agree.
still look, it's on the claims report though. And so we still, I don't do any, I leave it there until a certain amount of time. And then I say to them, okay, you got to pay for it, or, we never found it. You didn't find it. And by that point, there's
So what,
been
you'll
like 2 months.
So then you rebuild them or you recheck it out to them?
You can put it to lost and bill them for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To your point, Michelle, of libraries that have claims returned that they don't seem to be doing anything about them, I suppose that's probably me. Is there, and I'm asking Mieko this question, how do we mark those claims returned that are really old as items we want to withdraw without checking them in?
I think you're going to have to check them in.
And then
So
you mark
then if
them
we
as
check
done.
them in, then does it then take that claims returned off the patron's account?
Yes. So it
sort of
no
defeats
longer-
the purpose.
It no longer counts it as a current claim, but it still keeps the count in their lifetime claim.
So you still know that they've had 3 claims, 5 claims, whatever it is. So you still know, hey, you've had a pattern, but the item's not still listed on their stuff.
You could go into the ones and you can put them to lost and waive the fee because you're charging nothing because it's so old. Then in the system, in the item record, it says it's in lost status, which is then caught in another report, which then the selectors can make a decision of what to do with their stuff. You don't have to worry about it at that point. The point is you want to detach it from the patron record and let the item go free so that something can be done with it. So anytime you see that stuff, you just go into that particular record and you put it to lost and then waive the fee and then let it go. So that's one way to do it. I don't know if that's
you can't do that without checking it in though, right?
You do not have to check it in. If it's in claims returned, you just click the item. The boxes will light up. You go lost It shoots it in, then the box pops up.
Wait,
you wanna
when
charge
you
it?
say click the item, so I'm in the item record right now. What
No,
would
no,
I
no,
be
you go to
clicking?
you go to the patron's record, and then you go into their claims field. You click
I
the
see.
item, the little box next to the item that's been claimed. You see the options where it says lost across the top.
Yeah.
So you click lost.
Wait, so you click the, oh, I see.
Mhm.
Declare, okay, I see. Never mind. See, I never deal
You
with
got it.
claims law
And
return.
you
That's why I
do
have
declare
no idea about
lost,
it.
and then you
Okay.
just waive it if you don't
Got
want
it.
to charge them and move on. Yeah. And then the item record
Okay.
is free to be documented properly, and it's all documented in the patron record properly, a history of it, that they had this claims return item, but you waived it. Okay, fine. And, or charged it, whichever way you go, but.
So this, for example, this particular item, which was a school teacher, I believe, who claimed, I remember when I saw this, because, well, never mind, I won't go there. So he already, because, you know, he had like 25 other items checked out from our library, but he claimed he returned this particular item, so he didn't.
Mhm.
Anyway, he has other lost accruing items, so do those count against him? Or we don't know if those were claims returned to begin with?
No,
Or-
so lost accruing, that occurs, let me just pull up the piece online just so I can give you like the official wording and not bumble over things myself. Okay, so lost accruing occurs when an item has been made lost after it's overdue, right? So once it's paid for, it moves from lost unpaid status to lost accruing status. The item is no longer counted towards anything on the patron's record. It's not counted towards like their claims loss numbers or their checkout numbers. If the lost item is recovered after it's being paid for, the database will calculate any overdue fines that the patron may be responsible for.
Okay, I'm gonna have to read that myself.
So,
Yeah.
so, you know, Anne Marie, we were just like, I seriously was going over this with like 5 different people, and we were trying to figure this all out. Lost accruing means, Mieko, totally correct me if I'm misspeaking, but it means that the person's paid for it. It's just that the item is still in the catalog. And so something has to be done with that item, like it has to be withdrawn or for it to go away. That's why what I'm saying that is bothering me is that I have all these people who have lost accruing things in their accounts. And I know that the patron can't see it, but the fact that it's there, I feel like is misleading, because if you're looking at someone's account, you think, oh, they have all these lost items. They've paid for that stuff. It's taken care of. It's just that it's still in the catalog. And because I'm taking care of the displaying stuff and I'm withdrawing it, but I know that other libraries have different ways of doing this. And that's why I was asking, like, do they know, like, to go in or
I'm confused. What do you mean?
How
it's
can it
That
lost?
makes sense.
What do you
That
mean
makes
it's
sense
lost
to me now.
accruing?
Lost accruing means the patrons paid for the item, but the reason why it says accruing is that it can still accrue fines if we had fines or whatever, because, well, I don't know why, but that's what it's doing. It says accruing because it's technically accruing fines still. It has
Is
the
there a
ability.
report for that?
Where do you see? Yeah, I've never seen that.
Oh,
I've only
wait, I
seen
have a question
a
for you. Though.
status
Is
of
you're talking
lost.
about only items that are from other libraries or in that said, not your own stuff?
This would happen to my own stuff too, if after somebody paid, we didn't go in, check the item in, withdraw the item and remove it from the catalog. We do that so that it no longer is in the patron's list of claims lost stuff. But it's in there for other libraries items because other libraries aren't necessarily removing or withdrawing items that have been deemed lost.
I guess the thing is this, is that you wouldn't get any of that, I believe, because I never get any of that, the lost accruing, I mean, because the method that I go through is the one I just shared. I'm detaching it from the item record, the patron record. They are being detached by the process I use. And so I don't get that response. So that's why I'm like, I wonder what the steps are being used. Like if it's your own stuff and it was a claims returned item, And,
This may not even be a claims return, so I'm
Oh.
sorry that it's like categorized this
oh,
way.
sorry
If
then.
some- no,
Okay,
no,
I'm
no.
sorry.
So if somebody has something that is like super lost, 47 days or whatever,
So
and
they've been billed for
That's
it,
a
you mean?
separate issue.
yeah,
So you're talking about lost items that people aren't deleting,
Yeah.
not claims returned, right?
yes.
Karen, I'm looking at an item right now that belongs to Glenview. So tell me how, this is what I don't understand. So this item is showing as lost accruing. It was lost in November of last year. Michelle, you're saying it's been paid for because it's lost accruing,
That's my understanding, yes.
but it's still in the catalog because Karen hasn't deleted it or withdrawn it. Is that right?
That is
Yeah.
correct.
Where do you see this lost
So
occurring?
the lost
Well-
accruing, if those are lost items, basically,
Yes.
right? Status.
So the
Here.
status is
Status.
lost.
Yeah,
If it's
go.
okay, I'm gonna take over the conversation just for a second.
Mhm.
So like we've already made this distinction that these are not claims returned, these are lost items, right? These are lost items that have already been paid for. And like Michelle said, it no longer appears on anything that the patron sees. So it's not considered like associated with the patron at all anymore.
It's done. Okay.
It's done. But the item, like the item information still appears in the patron's lost claim portion. So let
Oh,
me, I'm just going to share my screen for a second because I have a screenshot here from a portal page. I don't know if you guys can see this.
Yeah.
yeah.
So, okay. So here's the patron's claims lost tab in the record.
Right.
So it shows 0 items lost because the patron has already paid for this.
Right.
But because the item
I
has not
see.
been withdrawn and deleted from the system yet, it
Mhm.
still has a list entry in this tab. And that
Even though
list,
there's not a one on the claims or the lost, if you go into the account, this will still appear.
exactly.
But isn't this item listed on the list that's called our lost list that's run monthly that the selectors look at and decide what to do with their lost stuff? And then they put it in withdrawn if they choose to, or
Agreed.
whatever. And that's how it gets removed then. Isn't that correct?
I've
Yeah,
never seen this before.
Oh.
Libraries should be checking the
Mhm.
lost, missing, damaged report in web reports that lists everything that all of your items that have been paid for the previous calendar month. Those items are listed in that report. So the selectors can then know like this item's been lost and paid for, and then they can withdraw, delete it, reorder it, do what they need with it.
But Mieko, so in our case, we allow 1 year for a refund, so we don't delete for at least 1 year.
Okay. And that's
So,
probably
like,
right.
Yeah.
And that's probably where, some of these, like when Michelle notices like these lost accruing on patrons' records, that's probably where some of this is coming from because libraries have different like
Yeah.
timelines for when they withdraw and delete things.
Yeah.
I'm shooting off the link there for that page. If you do want to go back and take a look at that screenshot, it's the page for the lost items, and at the bottom of the page is where you can find the section on lost accruing.
Can I ask one question about claims returned? I just want to, are we okay with lost accruing? I don't want to change the subject if we still want to continue. Michelle, are you good?
No, you're fine. Sorry. Yeah. Go ahead, Kim. Sorry.
So Michelle brought up a good point. Their library just claims returned an item. So it shows up on her report, but if she decides to bill my patron from the claims return that I told the patron I've removed, does that happen? I guess are we supposed to not bill the patron when we claims return another library's item? Or another library claims returns our item? You know how it'll say on that report, displays claims return this item for their patron. I can't go back and bill that patron.
No, I'm pulling up the governing board policy document right now, so I can give you an exact citation.
Thank you.
Yes. Let me just get through this. Yeah, so if another library has claims returned one of your items, right? So like Displays claim return a Wilmette item at Displays for Displays patron, Wilmette will not bill that patron.
Yeah, and I think, Dana, correct me if I'm wrong, like when we get, if somebody comes here and says, I returned that Evanston thing, item, whatever, so we'll claims return it so that you'll see that they're saying that they did it. So then it's up, are you saying that you wouldn't feel comfortable billing my patron?
I don't think we should do that.
Wait, say it again.
I don't think we should bill another library's patron.
I think you do if they have your stuff.
Yeah.
So
How do you suppose, what are you supposed to do? Just leave it sit like that?
Okay, so I'm confused too. So once you claims return an item from another library, the patron who I told them I claims returned it, it's off their card, correct? They don't see it on their end.
They don't see it.
Right? So that means that the other library won't bill them, correct? That's where because you don't want
Because
to.
it'll go on their own library's claims return list for them to see it? Is that
Yeah,
how it goes?
like the library, the owning library's item
Shows up on
they
their
feel-
list.
Right, and then they would do shelf checks for
Then
it.
they make the
and-
decision.
Yeah, because the thing is that it's, I have so many patrons that have claims returned.
Yep.
And a huge chunk of them are not my people. But they might have checked it out here, they might have checked it out by you. I don't know. Are you guys saying that you don't think if one of your patrons loses?
What's Mako? What's the policy? Because don't we have a policy? Isn't it that chart thing?
That's for damaged items,
Oh,
for managing damaged items. For claiming items, you know, when we did away with quarterly billing and the advisory group like reviewed all of these different situations, damaged items, claims items, you know, the decision was made that libraries can claim CCS items, right? So it's up to the discretion of your library.
But if
and-
it's not, oh, go ahead, sorry.
but the
Nancy.
owning library shouldn't bill another library's patron, right?
Right.
Okay.
Wait, so you're saying, Miko, that
Wait, what?
we can't bill, like if somebody checked something out at Park Ridge that was mine and they lost, well, they claimed they returned it, but then we can't find it. I can't bill that person?
No,
Right.
you can build it per, so I think what we have here is that like if we're saying that claim was made or resolved. Okay, wait, let me back up.
I know this is very confusing. This is why I'm like.
Deep
I
breath.
need
Let's
help.
start
I'm-
over.
I'm lost. I'm lost.
How about this? Let me go back. I'm going to look at the documentation. I'm going to look at the advisory group minutes. I know the group wanted to keep things kind of general and not start to get into like all these nitpicky situations, because then it, you know, that it gets like this, it gets confusing. So let me go back and see what I can clarify. And, you know, if the group feels like we need to get a little more specific, then we can take it back to the advisory group.
From what I remember, Mako, and you double check because I was part of the advisory group.
Yeah.
We did not want another library billing a patron, because if I'm telling my patron I'm claims returning this, to me it's resolved. And then if a third library or a second library that they never heard of, you know, is contacting them to bill them, like it just seems very confusing. So that was my recollection of.
Okay.
Does this not billing another library apply in the case of, for example, my patron, or no, an Evanston patron has my item and they come to me and they say, I left it on an airplane, it's gone. Can I bill them? Am I allowed?
Yeah,
Wait,
because
your
they're,
stuff, you put it in.
they're,
your-
they're
when you-
admitting that they lost it. So yeah.
Right, so, but it's okay for me to bill that patron that is not my patron. That's
Yeah.
just what I want to clarify. Yeah, okay. I just
To me,
want to be
it's a
sure I was doing it
checkout.
right.
Yeah, it's a checkout library. You know,
I
We
that-
were
guess that's-
discussing, oh, go ahead.
I guess that's the question, Michelle, is it, because you're saying it's multiple patrons not at your library, are they using your library? Because
In some cases, yes. So like when I said the 25%, that is of people coming into my library, checking things out from me, but they're like Niles, they're Park Ridge, they're like from all over the place. We do have like a very small number of claims that we see that have been claimed from other libraries have clicked the claim button because somebody checked out a Displays item that got sent over to your libraries and got checked out there.
Okay, just confused if it was
It
that
is,
you were
and
out
again,
live or
yeah,
not.
and I'm
because
sorry
it's
that like, yeah, this is, there's so many bits to this and they're like, we're trying to streamline the process of these. And I do want to also say, it's funny because Dana and I were at an in-person meeting, so that had to be a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. And we were like, somehow in the conversation, claims return came up and we were like, we don't use that. And there was like half the room went mental that they were like, you're supposed to be using that. So I'm now shocked because I'm like, okay, you guys aren't using it. We were told we should be using
No,
it. And so
yeah.
that's why we started using it. And
I think we use it. I just think we use it in a different way.
Yeah, we use it as well, so.
Like you're doing it right away, but like for me, I try to give it time to resolve
How do you keep
resolve
track of all
itself.
that? Right, but I mean, the same thing though, like I might say, I don't tell them, oh, I'm taking it off your account, everything's fine now. What we say is, we're gonna do 3 shelf checks on 3 separate days. Keep looking for it, just in case it got, lost in your car or whatever while we're doing this, and we'll get back to you. And then after we do the shelf checks, we call them and or email them or whatever and tell them the status of what's going on.
Yeah, that's what we do. But I guess when you're explaining it before, it sounded like as soon as they tell you that I was getting claims returned. So that's where I think.
Well, yeah,
was the
I mean, but if,
confusion.
yeah, we are clicking it like the first time.
While
we
you're
say
standing
it.
there talking to them, yeah.
Yeah, we
Mhm.
do mark it as a claims return, so it goes on the report so we can keep track of them, because I feel like before we did that, we had all these slips of paper and it was very confusing
Exactly.
keeping track of everything.
Yeah.
So the report at least like cleaned it up and made it like, I can see the dates of when it was claimed and what's happened and all this kind of, I don't know. And again, we got yelled at. Remember, Dana? People were like, what are you people aren't doing this?
You know, this might clarify an earlier point. I don't know. I'm a little lost now. But yeah, we did get a lot of people like, and I was new to the role of patron account supervisor then, but Michelle and I have been through the pandemic and the millions of other things to try to figure out. We've been trying to like really get a good handle on claims because, well, there's many reasons, but what I was the one handling the claims from other libraries for the most part. And I was just forgiving them because I didn't have time to call another library and be like, hey, we didn't find this. Do you want to bill your, I didn't have time to reach out to another library, but now we finally do have the time to like go and call. Oh, and my earbuds are dying. Anyway, the whole point is, I think there's like 3 claims from other libraries. Park Ridge might be one of them, which someone called and talked to me about a while ago. Anyway, blah, 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 blah. This is all to say, Michelle and I were looking at this report and didn't want to bill other libraries patrons who were not coming to our library. So we wanted to know what to do then. Like, do we contact, would you all prefer, like, if we see that and say it's like, Wilmette, hey, Kim, your patron claimed this. Do you want me to charge them or not? But actually that's point because Kim and I just talked about that. But anyway, we'll say like Anastasia, one of your patrons came and claimed an item or went to your library and claims an item. Now I'm lost.
Wait, is it our item or our patron?
So it's our item. Your patron at your library claims one of our items, said they returned it to you. So now it's on our report, right? We haven't found it. Would you like us then to call you, and say, hey, Anastasia, or I should say Michelle, call you and say, hey, Anastasia, do you want us to bill your patron? Like, I don't know. I didn't feel comfortable billing another library's patron.
I'd say if they're checking out at your library and you're dealing with them, then yeah, I just wouldn't want like an owning library
Yeah.
that it was not checked out there to bill my patron. So like if I
Yeah.
have an ILL from Evanston and it's claims returned, and I tell a patron I'm marking this as claims returned, I wouldn't want Evanston to all of a sudden bill that account without having a conversation. But if you're dealing with a patron, then I think that's a little bit of a different situation. But I think Mayo's gonna double check.
Yeah, as I say, I think after looking at some of the chats, right, you've got some libraries who only use claims returned once they're like decide they're no longer going to hold the patron responsible. So I think some of the disconnect comes from what point libraries are using the claims returned, because there's probably different ways. There are different ways to approach this. If you use claims return, like Ela and Niall say here, when they're no longer holding the patron responsible. So then there's, they're not going to go back and mark the item as lost to the patron versus the library who marks it as claims and then goes through the process of, goes to that process, but like there's still that chance of them then billing the patron. So I think those are maybe the two different ways of using claims that we have to kind of like find some common ground here.
Can I ask a follow-up about that? Like, if you're using claims just as last resort, are you just renewing the stuff to make sure that they don't end up getting a long hold block, long overdue block? Because that's the other piece. Like, if they're saying, oh, I returned it and we're looking, but it hasn't found, I don't want, is their card going to get blocked?
Yeah.
No, I mean, we work with the patron. I mean, if we're
So
doing
you're
three,
renewing?
I mean, it really depends on the situation. If they're not blocked, we're probably not going to renew it. And usually 3 shelf checks will be done within a few days. So it's not like, it's not like it's taking 3 weeks. And usually I tell the patron, we're going to double check here and you double check at home. By the time we get to the 3rd shelf check, the patron found it at home and returned it. So that's why we kind of use that. And then you use your judgment. Do you think this patron should be billed or not? Just kind of based on their history and what the situation is. So that's why I just try and wait to use it, because I just feel like it's a tool to kind of work with the patron to make sure that they're actually checking and that if they're not off the hook, you know what I mean?
I mean, we run it every week and then go check, and after 3 times, so it's 3 weeks, the items, the patron's looking, we're looking, we have the same goal as to find the item, and if it's not found after the 3rd week of looking for it, so that's the 3rd time, then it's just billed automatically to their account, and they usually are paying for it. I mean, they know that we're looking. We've told them that on the onset, like, hey, we'll look for it. You look for it, hopefully it'll show up. And then after 3 searches, it's just, which I'm glad you mentioned that, because I won't be impacted by the 2-week. They won't be impacted by the 2-week block. Then that's why the claims return is a nice feature. It kind of pulls it off for kind of hiding it in the background a bit until a decision is made, and then it's either waive it or bill the patron.
So you bill the patron after
3 searches,
3
which is once each week we look for it, and then we bill them, and then they've been paying and I keep track of it. So we get about, we don't get that many because we, anyway, we don't get that many. So I probably have maybe 5 on there.
I wonder why we have so many. And people who like have 5 sets of DVDs out. I returned these. Well,
See, when people tell you that they've returned, my staff know this too, if they come up and say, oh, but I returned those 3 things, I already know the answer is no, you did not. Because the probability and likelihood is 0 that we missed 3 things of your stuff checking in. It didn't happen. Because of my systems I have here, it didn't happen. So we still say, well, why don't you look for them a little further? We'll do a check right now. And at that point, I don't put them in claims, because that's just, they've got them at home is where that's at, or in their car or whatever. So, yeah.
I feel like another disadvantage to marking as claims is that you lose that history. So then you won't really know when it was
You put
checked
in
out,
notes.
how many, oh, God, okay. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Lori,
I'm sorry, I made everything. go
Interesting
crazy.
discussion. Mhm.
I do have
Is it-
one more, sorry.
no, sorry. I just want to make sure, Lori, if you wanted to interject with anything or not.
No, pretty much I was just going to say the same thing. I mean, we are using it very differently, because we would never put anything into claims. I mean, that we have 2 people that, oh, my account's blocked, I return that. Well, Okay, well, we'll look for it. But in the meantime, your account's still blocked.
Right.
So you can use your spouse's card or your children. Like, we're more than happy to check you out if you have a different card. But we just have too many people that would just use that like for everything. So we would not do that. And I would never feel comfortable billing your patron for my item if they checked it out at your library. We would never do that.
Yeah.
We assume if you put it in claims returned, that it has waited a long time and the patron was diligent and you just want us to write it off. That's why it's in claims returned.
Okay.
So Karen, let's put claims return then under old business for next meeting.
Yeah.
I know, and then, we also have an advisory group in between then and now. So maybe we can formulate a recommendation and then check in with the wider group.
Sounds good.
Any pending questions?
All righty.
Can I ask a quick question on deleting items?
No. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
So if an item is marked as the CERC status is lost, you can just hit delete, right? You don't have to change the status.
Right. Yeah. If an item has been lost, you don't have to like change it to withdrawn and then change it and then delete it. Like you can just.
But if an item is marked as claimed, then I have to check it in, mark it as withdrawn, and then delete, or can I just delete a claim status?
Let me double check on that.
Thanks.
Wait, can you say that again? If something is marked lost, you don't have to check it in and withdraw it?
You don't have to
You
right.
can
So
withdraw it from lost.
Yeah, you just hit delete. You just mark delete.
Delete, right, is what I meant, sorry.
I did not know that. I don't think any of us knew that here.
there's
Yeah, because if it's lost, it's theoretically, you don't have it in your hand. And so to go try to check something in you don't have, even though you could manually key in the barcode, it would be kind of goofy to
That's what we've been doing.
make everybody.
I'm not
go
hand
that,
keying,
"Oh."
but there's like a, in the more you can.
Well, there's an
check it in from there.
efficiency for you.
Yeah.
yeah, in the technical services procedures page on the learning portal, there's a handful of documents about withdrawing items and Polaris. I don't know exactly which one.
You guys
contains
can
the
withdraw
steps,
your items. Your tech department and librarians don't care that you're removing items from the catalog.
For claims returned, I feel like it's a CERC related issue, so no.
But Anastasia, I'll check on the recommended process for
Thanks.
withdrawing a claims returned item.
And I have one last question, I swear.
That's what you said about the last one, Anastasia.
Got that smile.
So is there a way to, I guess there's no way to search or run a report based on lost and paid versus a lost and not paid, right? Everything's just lost.
Oh,
We have a ticket.
does that sound familiar?
We have a ticket in right now about this, right?
I
Dawn?
really think we need to get another CERC status.
Yeah.
Wait, is not that web report that says damaged, lost, and then lost again? The last page is lost and paid from the previous month.
You just
and
have to
then
go
the
through
other
all the archives if you haven't.
lost.
Yeah, I just want to be able to run a report, and everyone has their own process of when they need to find the items, so.
I will 100% pass this along.
Mieko, I'm so sorry.
Don't be sorry.
Good discussion.
Yes.
Clearly is needed.
I don't think I'm any clearer now though than I was before the meeting. So that's the only thing.
Well, no, Michelle, it's good because now it's exposing some areas that we need to talk about, and then we'll talk about them a little more. And then at the next meeting, then maybe we'll be.
And the more we talk about it, the clearer it will become,
Yeah, Michelle, don't feel that way because I feel the same way too right now. I'm like, oh.
I know less now after the meeting than I did before the meeting.
Right.
Do we know who's on the new advisory committee for CERC?
Yes.
Has that been announced?
Yeah, we the rosters have been finalized. I reached out to I think all the liaisons reached out to their respective groups either Wednesday or yesterday, and the roster should be up, I think, in today's newsletter. So it's exciting.
Yeah.
Well, if any consolation, Michelle, I'll be more diligent on my claims return. report.
No, this wasn't even meant to, like, I just was like, why are we doing it this way and not and what's the right way? And now I'm sitting here going, well, I thought we were doing claims return the way.
Claims return, we give them a little, we go, look, let us just extend it for you for like a week or so. We'll check our shelves. We'll see if they're adamant. We might ask the library to check if they're giving us a hard time. So that way it just slows, we don't immediately go to claim return. We extend it for a short period of time on the understanding that everybody's going to look for it. And that usually a lot of times catches a lot of the regular ones, the people who always tell me they've returned it, and then they come in, it's so funny, you'll never guess where I found it. Whereas when we do it, it's appalling. So I've just got people who do it regularly. They just screw up. Right. So instead of getting into claims return and starting a process, we give it another week or extend it, 7 or 8 days. Can you check over the weekend? And we'll check. They may say, yeah, I know I returned it. But a lot of times it shows up after the weekend. When they really go look for it and realize they may get billed for it. It still sort of holds, see, you could get billed for it if we can't find it, but you still have claims return. So we just do it a little bit, not as the first option. We just ask them to check and we have it be a short period of time. If they're at that adamant, they're going to be back. And the item will go overdue quickly so that it comes back up quickly.
Right.
But I'm not sure how that screws up renewals and things like that. But usually the person finds it. And if we're like, we'll really look, and I might call the home library and ask them if they have time to look because my patron's being adamant.
Yeah.
But then, yeah, I have put a couple of things on claim return when they really insistent, but I usually have called the library and mentioned it so that they know. I'm just not sure how many people get to see which reports. Some people have to do other reports so detailed, they don't have time to do some of the other ones. So, because our claims return report is never very long. So I don't always honestly check it every week.
And see, maybe that's the huge difference. Again, mine's so long that it's like a
I have to
thing.
wait for the librarian to make a call on it. I don't get to say, delete it. I can just say, this has been gone for a really long time. Don't you think it's time to buy or move on? So I can only recommend. I can't get them to just do it.
I think probably, Michelle, yours is long because you use it in a very effective way in that way. And so that's why yours is long. You really have a method set for that and you kind of stick to that. I do the same thing. And I think those of us that maybe have a little bit other ways of doing it, that's why we don't get a long list possibly either, so I think that's probably the variables that play into that. So. All right, so it's 11:34. It has been a fabulous meeting, in my opinion, and I don't know. So, okay, hopefully you all have enjoyed it as well. So at this point, what?
Great.
You took the minutes. Okay, good job. All right, well then I guess I'm supposed to say, I call for a motion to adjourn the meeting. Oh, wait, no, but wait, I take that back. Our next meeting will be October 8th. And it's a virtual Zoom meeting again, I think, right? We're still doing until 2021. I think I read that somewhere. Just wanted to put that out there. So next meeting, October 8th. Okay, so I call for a motion to adjourn the meeting. Somebody. Is that what I'm supposed to say? Oh.
I move.
We
motioned.
Tori
Aaron.
Aaron, who seconded it?
Aaron will second, or
no, Aaron's first.
I'll second.
Who's third? No, okay, you're second. All right. Have a good weekend, everybody.
Enjoy your
Bye.
Thanks.
Are we staying on, Mieko? Are we supposed to talk afterwards or not?